The Trump campaign with Susie Wiles, who is my co-chairman. So we have a working relationship. Everything that we do at the RNC, we're the president's political arm. We work them around, every single day. Every decision that we're doing is in coordination with them. And listen, we're doing exactly that. We're supporting the president, everything he needs, not only him but his administration. We're supporting Republican candidates once they're chosen by the voters, and then we're protecting the vote. We have over 134 lawsuits across 30 states. We have a huge one right now in front of the Supreme Court where we're basically, back before 2020, I would say we were more reactive with some of our litigation. Now we're dropping the hammer and going after every single place where we could possibly find a win, where we could, make sure vote access workers and poll watchers, to make sure we're cleaning up the voting rolls, to make sure in the Supreme Court case right now, it comes down to we should stop absentee ballots from being counted if they arrive after Election Day. It seems like it's common sense, but 17 states have this. This is in front of the Supreme Court right now. This is going to be a huge victory for election integrity. But like I said, whether coast to coast, we're fighting every single day. Anywhere where we could gain an advantage, we're not being reactive. We're being as aggressive as we could possibly be. We do this for the Republican universe. But, like I said, first and foremost, the party exists to help the president, and we're making sure we do everything we can, from redistricting to candidate recruitment, to make sure we can win the seats we need to win in these midterms.
About 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman. One of your big jobs is fundraising. Give us an idea. What is the financial health of the Republican National Committee right now?
Listen, we're in great shape, and I say we're successful because we have the vice president. I think the first time in history, he's our finance chairman. The president's playing an active role. We have, I think we're going to report just under $100 million later this week, and I think the DNC has 2 or 3.
Wait, $100 million for the Republicans and $2 or $3 million for the Democrats?
That's my guess, but they have a $15 million line of credit, so they may say they have 15 or 16 or 17. And listen, what's going to happen? The Supreme Court's about to rule on coordinated campaign limits, which is going to give tremendous influence and power to the party to make sure we win these races. And we are absolutely running circles around the Democrats, and we're going to crush them in the midterms, and we have a real chance to defy history, but we can't do it without everybody helping and coming to our cause. Go to GOP.com and join us.
That's Chairman Joe Gruters. He's the new leader of the Republican National Committee, and we are broadcasting live today from Santa Barbara, California, at the winter meeting of the RNC. We're going to have folks in all day. In fact, coming up next, the National Committee man for California, Shawn Steele, is here. It's Common Sense for the American people. Scott Jennings, stay with us. Okay, it's Wednesday, January 21st. Scott Jennings Show here on Salem. We're broadcasting live today from Santa Barbara, California. It's on location at the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. Our next guest is the National Committee man for the state that is hosting us today from California, Shawn Steele. Welcome into the show.
It's great to be here, and the sunshine just came out, so that's a good sign.
It just came out here in Santa Barbara, ocean, and it's beautiful weather out here. We had a great breakfast this morning, by the way, Shawn. Signed a lot of books, and you and I had a great conversation. And we talked a little bit about what's going on in California. Got a few questions about Gavin Newsom, and he is out in Davos. I saw him this morning. He's attacking, of course, President Trump and the Republicans. But interestingly, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, absolutely hammered Newsom and fired back. Let's listen to Cut 10, Scott Bessent answering Gavin Newsom.
I think it's very, very ironic that Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and the Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that.
So Bessent goes after Newsom today in Davos, and you know this governor here, Shawn, in California very well. You see him up close. Is he going to be the Democratic nominee? Could he be our president? What's your opinion?
He's sleazy enough to make it. Bill Clinton set the standard. You can do anything bad. You can embarrass your wife. You can embarrass your family and still be an effective Democrat candidate. So he's kind of scary. He's an amoeba, but he's really the new Bill Clinton of the era.
Yeah, Clinton, though, had a way of exuding a little bit of authenticity. And when I see Newsom from afar, I see the opposite of that. I see a shape-shifting, inauthentic, slimy, smarmy, say whatever it takes in the moment. Some people would say, well, that's just politics. But I feel like we're living in an era that demands authenticity. Again, you see him up close. What's your view? Is that kind of politics that's sleazy, say anything, change anything in the moment, is that going to sell in 2028?
It'll sell to the 40% on the left. That does worry me. They'll take anything that's sugar-coated, but at the end of the day, I think an effective candidate against him is going to point out this is a sad rich kid. He's never had a day of work that he had to do in his life. Everything was handed to him. He goes in and he says San Francisco's great, and he utterly destroys that city where it really is uninhabitable in major parts of town. Then he does the same thing to California with the worst schools, and yet to get the most money. The economy is failing. A high school kid with a high school degree can't get a good job unless he's flipping burgers. So we have huge outflow, and it's not just rich people at all. There's not many of those in California. It's a working middle class that go to Texas, go to Florida, go to Kentucky. They get more money for the jobs, and they can buy a home. You can't buy a home if you're a young person in California. That's gone. That's done. It's too expensive because they don't build you. You can't build anything anywhere. So with that attitude, you go to Texas, you get a home for a third as much. You get a better school. You get safer neighborhoods, lower taxes, then you get a good job. And Gavin has turned out to be really probably the worst governor, not as savage as Pritzker in Chicago or Walz in Minnesota, but Gavin is just the saddest edifice that the Democrats can present. He looks good, but he's shallow and he's weak.
So this California rivalry between Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris is sort of fascinating to me. They don't like each other. They don't get along. It looks like they both want to run for president. Do you expect them to run against each other? Do you think Harris could get the nomination again for the Democrats, or is she cooked?
Well, first of all, they're in the same political environment. San Francisco has given us Nancy Pelosi. It's given us so many bad people in the past, and they have the same kind of set of donors, which is ironic. And I think Harris is pretty well cooked. I don't think even Democrats take her too seriously. The more you learn about her, I mean, this has been a long time now, but even now, the more you learn about her, the less you're interested. Gavin's kind of a new star. People are kind of getting acquainted with him. He gives a very good first impression, and then he starts deteriorating. Our job is simply to tell the California story the really way it is, the actual demographics, actually what's happening on the ground. And that's and then the great industries, the tech industries that look so good in California, that brought in so much wealth. Again, they're leaving the state, not the billionaires tax, but the quality of living has deteriorated, and Newsom's entirely responsible.
That voice you're hearing is Sean Steele. He is the Republican National Committee man for the state of California. Has forgotten more about the failures of Gavin Newsom than most of us will ever know, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you, Sean, in the years ahead as we get into this 2028 presidential cycle. We're going to take a break. When we come back from Kentucky, the RNC co-chair, Casey Crosby, is here. It's Common Sense for the American people. Stay with us on Salem.
Hey, it's Scott. Listen, when I prep for my CNN debates, I need to know exactly where the national conversation is headed. And it turns out it's helpful to know that in your everyday life as well. And that's why I tried out Free Spoke. Now, it's my go-to place for search and for news. When you use Free Spoke, it's a search platform that gives you the full story. You get information from the left, you get it from the right, you get non-mainstream, you get independent journalists, you get podcast insights. What you get from Free Spoke is the full story all in one place. And here's the thing, when you search on Free Spoke, you know they are not going to sell your data. It's quite something, actually. It's fast, it's private, it's unbiased. Free Spoke helps me research topics and make sure that I understand the full picture. You can have this tool as well. Just go to freespoke.com/Jennings to download their app for free. And as an exclusive for my listeners, use promo code Jennings after you download it and get 35% off the premium version. You go ad-free and you unlock deeper elite tools to have control over your information. So don't rely on incomplete information. Take control of your own information environment. See every perspective so you can think for yourself, just like I do before every debate.
Okay, it's Wednesday, January the 21st. Scott Jennings, Common Sense for the American People, broadcasting live from Santa Barbara, California. We're at the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. And coming up in just a moment, my good friend, my longtime friend from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, she is the co-chair of the RNC. Casey Crosby is sitting right next to me. We're going to talk to her in just 1 second about what does the co-chair of the RNC do. We'll see what is on Casey's mind. I just want to quickly, though, give you a message from our friends and our partners at Child Help. You've heard me talk about Child Help, and I'm just going to start by saying I would never ask you to support an organization that I don't personally vouch for and support myself. I am a donor to Child Help. I donated because I visited their headquarters. I met with their leadership, I reviewed what they do, and I am personally convinced that what they do to stop child abuse in the United States of America is vital. They have the National Child Abuse Hotline, and they also are focusing right now on stopping online grooming. You get kids in these chat rooms, and they get in online venues, and it starts innocent, and all of a sudden it snowballs, and kids find themselves in these situations where they don't know what to do. They don't know if they can tell their parents. They don't know what to do. Child Help steps in, and they have life-saving programs to focus on prevention, education, intervention, and treatment. They help kids recognize grooming behavior before it turns into abuse. For $27, you can protect one child from abuse by funding Child Help. Donate today, just like I do. You can save a child. Text the word Child Help to 94878. $27, or you can go online to childhelp.org/Scott. That's childhelp.org/Scott. All right, it's Common Sense for the American People here. Wednesday, January 21st, from Santa Barbara, California. It's Scott Jennings, and welcoming into the show, Casey Crosby, who is the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Casey from Lexington, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Good to see you out here in Santa Barbara. Now, we've known each other a long time.
Long time.
You've been a grassroots activist of the Republican Party. You've worked on campaigns. You were active in the Republican Party of Kentucky. You were treasurer of the Republican National Committee. And then Donald Trump, the president, asked you to be co-chair of the RNC. Tell us, what does the co-chair of the RNC do on a daily basis?
So my biggest job is to support the chairman in all the efforts, and right now we're focused on winning these midterms. It's crucial that we get people out to vote, that we protect the vote, and so I crisscross the country with Chairman Gruters, and we are working on those efforts to make sure we make President Trump a four-year president. Well,
President Trump's out there today in Davos. He gave a big speech this morning. I want to get your reaction to this. Here is the president. Let's hear, guys in the booth, cut 4, what the president had to say in Davos this morning.
In fact, their electricity prices have soared 139%. There are windmills all over Europe. There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses, and the worse that country is doing. China makes almost all of the windmills, and yet I haven't been able to find any wind farms in China. Did you ever think of that? It's a good way of looking at it. They're smart. China's very smart. They make them, they sell them for a fortune. They sell them to the stupid people that buy them, but they don't use them themselves. They put up a couple of big wind farms, but they don't use them. They just put them up to show people what they could look like. They don't spin. They don't do anything. They use a thing called coal, mostly. But China goes with the coal. They go with oil and gas. They're starting to look at nuclear a little bit. And they're doing just fine.
So this was President Trump, Casey, talking about energy and what he views as European failure on energy. He also attacked the Green New scam, as he calls it. I played this for you because you and I come from a coal state. We come from Kentucky. The president has really refocused our national energy matrix on coal, natural gas. We're going away from wind, going away from solar. Being a Kentuckian, someone who's very familiar with the coal industry, you talk to a lot of people in this area. So what's the view out there in coal country on the president's position on energy?
Well, we are so thankful to have President Trump, and I love listening to that little clip you played because nobody can deliver a message quite like President Trump. And certainly we see with his policy, deregulation and supporting Kentucky coal, like you mentioned. I mean, we're just truly blessed to have President Trump who supports our coal industry and who's, deregulating everything across the board. And we see when you deregulate and let people just do business, good things happen for the economy. And so, it's amazing what he's been able to do in a short period of time.
I brought up energy because it was a key part of the RNC platform.
Yeah.
And, of course, he shaped the platform. And when you look at the platform and the issues that were released by the campaign, as an official of the Republican National Committee, is the president fulfilling all the promises that he made through the Republican platform?
100%. He's fulfilling all of his campaign promises. We talk all the time, promises made, promises kept. And, one thing you can say about President Trump is you never have to worry about where he stands on things or what he's going to do. He tells you up front and then he implements it. And so there's never any question about what President Trump is going to do and what he's going to do for the American people. He always puts America first, and we've seen that time and time again through his policies. You
and I have talked about how active the president has been on the foreign stage. I actually think a lot of people were frankly surprised that he engaged so much in all these conflicts and situations around the world. When you look at the president on the world stage, what stands out to you as his biggest foreign policy success?
Well, I think it's not one thing, it's 8 things. He's ended 8 wars, and I know he'd like to get another one shut down here pretty soon. It's been a little bit more difficult than I think even he has said what he thought it would be, and it's going to take time, but certainly I think that is a huge accomplishment.
All right, that voice you're hearing is Casey Crosby. She's the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, and she and I are both Kentuckians. We've known each other a long time. It's a great treat to have you here, KC. I was talking to Chairman Gruters earlier in the hour. He said you all are going to have like $100 million in the bank of the RNC, and the Democratic Party is only going to have $2 to $3 million. They do have a line of credit or debt that they're working out of. How did you do this? How did the RNC become such a financial juggernaut, and how did the Democrats become so cash poor? I mean, obviously they're working hard to try to win the midterms too, but it seems like you and Chairman Gruters have put the RNC in a lot better footing when it comes to campaign operations for 2026.
Well, listen, President Trump has a lot to do with that. Obviously, we talked about he made a lot of campaign promises, and he has kept his word, and the American people are seeing him deliver for them. And so it makes our pretty easy when we have a president who keeps his word and is going out and working hard for the American people. We have Vice President Vance, who is our finance chair and is very active, helping us. And then Chairman Gruters and I split our time. We spend a lot of time raising money because, it's kind of a necessary evil. You've got to have money to win elections. And, and people are just not buying into this woke left message right now. And we see that as we travel all across America, that people are just kind of sick of things. And so it's been really helpful to us in our fundraising efforts.
Tell us how this money is spent. That's a lot of money for an organization to have. And I think when we talk about campaign financing and campaign spending, so you have what the party can do, you have what candidates can do, you have outside groups. Specific to the Republican National Committee, $100 million and more to come. Give us an idea of the kinds of activities that you'll spend money on in service to Republican candidates across the country.
Well, as the former treasurer of the Republican National Committee, I can tell you we watch every dime that goes out, and our efforts and what we spend our money on are simply winning elections, and that is getting out the vote and election integrity. And again, it's unfortunate, but we have to get involved in a lot of lawsuits to protect the vote, and when you have to engage in litigation like that. So we spend a lot of money on protecting the vote and also getting out the vote. And pretty much if it's not going to help us win elections, we're not spending money on it.
You travel all over the country. You talk to Republicans everywhere. What are the 1 or 2 things that you hear most often from Republicans right now? What's really, what are they most excited about? What are they most worried about? What's kind of the vibe just among the grassroots people who are most engaged with party operations out there?
Well, when I travel the country, people are very pleased with President Trump and the policies that he's implementing. I think they would like to see some of it codified a little quicker, with votes with Congress. But I get a lot of feedback on that. But most of the time, people are very happy with President Trump and what he's doing. We get a lot of just sort of people wanting to know more about the party and how they can help. But people are really engaged and frankly pretty happy right now with us.
When you look at what's going on in individual states, obviously some states have big races, some some have Senate, some have governor, some are more congressional focused. It just depends on the cycle. What is the health of the Republican Party right now in terms of voter registration, bringing new people in, vis-a-vis the Democrats? Are we, as Republicans, seeing growth? Are Democrats seeing shrinkage when it comes to, registration? What's your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think we're seeing huge growth across the country with the Republican Party. I mean, again, when you have the presidency and you have a president who's delivering, I mean, it's going to naturally cause us to increase numbers, and people who have never been engaged and involved before are coming to the Republican Party because, again, President Trump is fighting for the American people. All of his policies is how do we make America better? How do we put America first? And, and that's one thing I know that we've discussed at length about. People are just kind of sick. They work hard. They work hard for their money, and they've been kind of sick of the past 4 years, what they endured under President Biden, and they just want to have a good life for their family. They want to feel safe in their communities. They want to have good jobs, and they want opportunities for their kids, and it's pretty simple. And so they see President Trump delivering on those messages, and they see it as a safe place for them to come and welcome them into the tent of the Republican Party.
Now, we're from Kentucky, and when we started out in politics all those years ago, it was a real Democrat state.
Yeah.
Democrats had voter registration. They controlled Frankfort, the state capital. It's really changed, and Republicans are now dominant. We're sitting here in California, a blue state. There's blue states out there, but they have some Republicans in them. We got about a minute to go, Casey. What is your message to Republican grassroots and Republican organizers in blue states like California or, say, Minnesota or other places? What is it that you want to tell them from the Republican National Committee? We know you're living behind enemy lines, but what is the message from the RNC about keeping the faith and trying to grow the party even in blue areas?
Well, you got to fight, as President Trump says. I mean, and don't give up. You and I both, we were in a blue state.
We were.
We were part of that battle together. We just never gave up. We just got in the trenches, and we tried to knock out, win elections one by one, and eventually we caught fire, and some things went our way, and now we have supermajorities in our state. So It can be done, and the biggest thing, too, I would say, is you got to work together, and you got to be unified, and just understand that at the end of the day, any Republican elected is better than the Democrat. So get to work.
That's Casey Crosby. She had the right message. Politics is a team sport. It's hard to have a cohesive team when you're fighting amongst yourselves. That's Casey Crosby. She is the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, and she is from my home state of Kentucky. Casey, thanks for coming by.
Thanks.
In a little bit, I guess in the next segment, we're going to have Lauren LePage from Maine. She's the committee woman from Maine. Come by. We're going to talk about the Senate race there. Next hour, I got an interview today. Michele Tafoya just launched her campaign for the U.S. Senate in Minnesota. Quick word from our friends at Relief Factor. One of the most rewarding parts of working with Relief Factor is I get letters. I get testimonials from people. They tell me it's working. Sandra is one of them. She said in her letter she'd been hearing about Relief Factor on the radio for a couple of years, finally decided to try it because nothing else was helping with her back pain. She signed up for the 3-week quick start. She went for it, and she said, quote, "Now I feel like a new person." That's Sandra's own words. And so what I'm going to do with Relief Factor over the next few weeks is bring you people in their own words. Did it help me? The answer is yes. I'm going to let them tell you what happened in their life. You can try it. 3-week quick start. We'll see how Relief Factor could help you. Call 1-800-4RELIEF or go to relieffactor.com. Ask yourself, how would it feel to be out of pain? You could find out with Relief Factor. More to come. It's Common Sense for the American people. Scott Jennings is in California. Stay with us on Salem. It's Wednesday, January 21st. We're on the road, Santa Barbara, California, broadcasting live from the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. My next guest is Lauren LePage. She is the RNC committee woman for Maine. So here's how it works. You get a committee man and a committee woman from every state. So every state gets two. And Lauren, you represent Maine here at the RNC.
Yes, I do.
And this year, not only are you working on your RNC duties, but Maine is a key state for Republicans as they seek to hold control of the United States Senate. The last Republican in the New England congressional delegation, Senator Susan Collins, is up for re-election this year. Give us a lay of the land. Is Susan Collins in position to be reelected in Maine in 2026?
Susan Collins is absolutely going to be reelected. She is working day in and day out to deliver for the Maine people. She's obviously chair of appropriations. That's a big deal for a small rural state like Maine. And she's running against, a guy with a Nazi tattoo and a governor who's probably going to join the likes of Tim Walz in not too short order with a massive welfare fraud scandal. So Senator Collins is in great shape.
So Collins Democrats flush a lot of money down the main toilet up there trying to get rid of Susan Collins. She's quite a fighter. I want to talk about these Democrats. This primary fascinates me. You have a sitting governor, Janet Mills. That's who the establishment Democrats and Schumer, that's who they want. And then you have this guy come along, Graham Plattner, who's kind of this manufactured, I'm an oyster farmer or whatever it is he claims to be.
Right.
Like, none of this is really true. He's just kind of a manufactured narrative of a candidate.
Right.
But as you mentioned, he had like a Nazi tattoo on his chest. He's one of these radical, liberal, socialist insurgents. He's beating Mills right now in the polling.
Yes, currently. I mean, if I were Governor Mills, I'd be pretty, frankly, embarrassed about where my polling was. But frankly, she's moving so far to the left that it's going to be a competition of who can out-left each other, this Democrat primary.
Yeah, Plattner is, this is the Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran Mamdani. That's who Plattner is. And I think this is true around the country, but it just, outside looking in, it feels like the energy and the momentum among the Democratic base in Maine is with this Plattner character.
For now, anyway. His fundraising numbers are quite good. But that being said, Maine is not like that. Frankly, he's kind of a paper candidate that doesn't really reflect what a real hardworking Maine family is, especially in rural Maine. Senator Collins is from Aroostook County. She's from as rural as it gets, and there's no one that works harder for the state of Maine. And I just don't see these two going anywhere. At this point, it's a competition for who's going to get beat by Susan Collins in November.
Yeah, I'm watching the primary because this idea of which way the Democrats are going to go nationally. Are they going to go down the Mamdani, Sanders, AOC, radical socialist route? Are they going to try to revert to people, even though I don't think Mills is all that great shake? She's not as radical, I guess, as Plattner. But I'm kind of watching it just to see where the energy flow is among Democrats, because that's probably what they're going to do in 2028. And if they would do this in Maine, certainly they would try to do it to the whole country.
Certainly. In Maine right now, the primary comes down to two wings of the Democratic Party, and it's basically like the Governor Mills wing, which is frankly going to be the Governor Tim Walz wing with a Medicaid fraud scandal. And then you've got the Mamdani wing, which is just completely out of touch with where real working families are in the state.
So you're telling me in Maine, for the Democrats, we have a choice between Nazi tattoo guy and Tim Walz emulator.
That's it. And I feel very strongly.
These are not great roads.
They're not winning strategies, in my opinion, and that's why I'm very confident that Senator Susan Collins is going to get reelected.
That's amazing. This is Lauren LePage. She's the National Committee woman from Maine for the Republican National Committee. We got about a minute to go. Look, you're involved with the party here at the national level. What's your view of the health of the Republican Party right now? You talk to a lot of people in Maine, but you interact with folks around the country. How are you feeling about the health of the party?
I feel great about the health of the party. I think you saw President Trump and Vice President Vance create a coalition unlike anything we have ever seen in the modern day Republican Party. We feel it on the ground in Maine. Maine voters are ready for change. They're ready for something different. And we're going to take CD2, which is a Trump district. We're going to flip that in the House of Representatives.
Is your dad running for that?
He is.
Oh,
he
my
is.
goodness.
Never lost the district. So we will we hope to have two Republicans from New England in the United States House and Senate next year.
I love this. Battleground Maine.
It is.
Senate, Congress.
Yep.
The people of Maine leading the Republican Party back in New England. That voice you're hearing, Lauren LePage. She is the National Committee woman from the great state of Maine. We're out here broadcasting from Santa Barbara, California. We're at the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. We're winding up hour number 1 of the Scott Jennings Show. Coming up in hour number 2, more great guests here at the RNC. Plus, I have an exclusive interview coming up with Michele Tafoya, now sports reporter and now Republican candidate for Senate in Minnesota. Stay with us here on Salem. Okay, it's Wednesday, January 21st. We're on the road. The world travels of Scott Jennings continues. Santa Barbara, California. We are broadcasting live from the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee today. We've been exploring the health of the Republican Party with several officials from the RNC. We're going to keep doing that this hour as well. Also, at 33 minutes past the hour today, exclusive live interview with famous sports reporter and new Republican candidate for the United States Senate in Minnesota, Michele Tafoya, will be live here on the Scott Jennings Show. You don't want to miss that. Republicans in play in Minnesota getting behind Michele Tafoya. As always, the Scott Jennings Show brought to you by East Total Health. You know, health insurance is in the news right now. It's not good news. You're getting a lot of frustrations with private insurance out there, both at a macro level and at a personal level. You try to use your insurance often, doesn't even feel like you have insurance. But I have good news for you because there may be an option that gets you out of your frustration. It's called Ease Total Health, EASE. It is not traditional insurance. It is much better. It is a set of benefits that you can use with your family on day one. There are no deductibles, and there are no restrictions on what doctors or hospitals you can choose. They have a range of options to fit every budget. I cannot list them all, but you can get them by doing this. Call them up, 888-EASE-123, or go to easeforeveryone.com/Scott. Check it out for yourself. I know these guys. I personally met with these guys. I believe in what they're doing. Do not wait for government or the big insurance companies to come to your rescue. They probably won't. Go to easeforeveryone.com/Scott or call 888-EASE-123. Common sense for the American people. It's Scott Jennings on Salem. First guest of the second hour today, coming to us from the great state of Georgia. The chairman of the Georgia Republican Party is here, Josh McCoon, sitting next to me. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you got a big race going on in Georgia. I want to talk about the race to beat Jon Ossoff in a moment. But first, let's hear from our president. He's in Davos today, gave a big speech. Let's cue up cut number 6 and listen to the president talking to the Europeans over in Davos.
In recent decades, it became conventional wisdom in Washington and European capitals that the only way to grow a modern Western economy was through ever-increasing government spending, unchecked mass migration, and endless foreign imports. The consensus was that so-called dirty jobs and heavy industry should be sent elsewhere, that affordable energy should be replaced by the Green New Scam, and that countries could be propped up by importing new and entirely different populations from faraway lands. This was the path that sleepy Joe Biden administration and many other Western governments very foolishly followed, turning their backs on everything that makes nations rich and powerful and strong. And there's so much potential in so many nations. The result was record budget and trade deficits and a growing sovereign deficit driven by the largest wave of mass migration in human history. We've never seen anything like it. Quite frankly, many parts of our world are being destroyed before our very eyes, and the leaders don't even understand what's happening. And the ones that do understand aren't doing anything about it. Virtually all of the so-called experts predicted my plans to end this failed model would trigger a global recession and runaway inflation. But we have proven them wrong.
Josh McCoon, chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. You hear the president. Is that going to resonate in Georgia?
Absolutely. I mean, it's what he has been saying for years now. Americans want real, good-paying jobs. We want to reverse the hollowing out of our middle class, and that's exactly what President Trump's talking about. He's on the message he's been on, and it resonates strongly with Georgia voters.
Well, this is going to be a big deal in November because you got one of the biggest Senate races in the country going on in Georgia. Jon Ossoff, the Democrat, is running for a second term. President Trump carried Georgia in 2024. You become sort of a battleground purple state in Georgia. What's the strategy? Can Ossoff be beaten in November?
He absolutely can be beaten. And what's different about 2026 than 2020 is Jon Ossoff was a blank slate in 2020. He pretended to be a middle-of-the-road guy. We now know Jon Ossoff votes more with California's U.S. senators than anyone else in the Senate. He's basically California's third senator. He's incredibly left-wing. He was incredibly unprepared to be in the U.S. Senate. And we've got some great candidates. Whoever emerges from our primary process is going to be able to prosecute that case against Jon Ossoff. We're going to be able to flip that seat and send President Trump additional endorsements to the United States Senate.
Talk to us about the Georgia Republican Party. I mean, obviously you got a different turnout matrix for a midterm than you do a presidential. Are you working with the Republican National Committee on best practices, best technology, best whatever it takes to get voter turnout where it has to be to replicate the Trump win from 24 and 26?
Absolutely. We've got great partners in the Republican National Committee and Chairman Gruters. We seem to be having an election almost every month. We had a special election for state Senate last night in Georgia, 5 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Republican turnout overperformed from President Trump, over 4%.
Okay, let me stop you right there. You had a special election for state Senate. Republican turnout. You got an overperformance because, the national narrative is that in these special elections that have been going on, Democrats have been overperforming. You're saying in Georgia it was the Republicans last night who overperformed.
They showed out and showed up. Almost 20,000 people turning out in a January special election the day after a major federal holiday. Republicans in our state are fired up and they're ready to go. And we're working closely with the RNC to make sure that we continue to build on that momentum so that we peak in November and throw out Jon Ossoff.
That voice you're hearing is the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, Josh McCoon. He's out here at the winter meeting of the RNC, where we're broadcasting live from today here in Santa Barbara, California. Just generally speaking, I mean, the national issues. All these races are now basically nationalized. What is the issue? What is the thing that's going to convince Georgia, you know what, we got to stick with the Republican plan here? We voted for Donald Trump. Have the Democrats been persuasive at all in rolling any of that back? Or do you think voters in Georgia that went for Trump are satisfied that he's keeping his promises that caused them to vote for him back in 24?
Well, look, you said it right. Every election in Georgia is a battleground election. We can't take anything for granted. We basically got to do three things. We've got to get the Trump voters back out in numbers. Those base voters are incredibly important. We've got to get voters that broke for Governor Kemp in 2022 while voting for Raphael Warnock, a lot of white suburban women. And we've got to continue to build on our strength in growing our share of the Jewish vote in Georgia. If you look at Senator Ossoff's record on Israel, it's terrible.
Terrible.
And we are prosecuting that case. We're working very closely with our partners at the Republican Jewish Coalition. So those are the three key things that I'm focused on as we build from now to November.
How is the economy doing in Georgia with Trump coming back into office? I mean, generally, what are you seeing out there? Do you feel green shoots of optimism in the Georgia economy? Are they benefiting from the Trump? We heard him talking about it in Davos this morning. I mean, he's really reorienting the American economy. Is that resonating in Georgia?
It absolutely is, Scott. We're seeing new job announcements almost every day. Hyundai located an automotive manufacturing facility in the southeastern part of our state. They've doubled down on that investment there. They're talking about thousands of additional new jobs, and these are good, high-paying jobs. It's a great entry point for somebody with a high school diploma, a little college, to be able to go in, start making $55,000, $60,000 a year. So yes, people are seeing all over our state these great opportunities. Our biggest problem in Georgia is continuing to grow our skilled workforce to fill all the vacant available jobs. There's tremendous opportunity in Georgia. So if there's anybody listening that's looking for a job, they should come to Georgia. We've got great opportunity, and people in our state are feeling that.
That voice you're hearing, Josh McCoon, he is the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. Josh, I suspect we'll be seeing a lot of you this year because of the big Senate race going on in Georgia, so we wish you luck in your efforts. We're broadcasting live from Santa Barbara, California. We're at the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. I want to deliver a message to you about cell phone service because I've met the answer. The answer is Patriot Mobile. I met these guys the other day. First of all, I love the name of the company, Patriot Mobile. They deliver prioritized premium service on all three major U.S. networks. You will get the same or even better coverage than you're getting right now. They have 100% U.S.-based customer support. And here is the best part. When you write your check, when you pay your bill to Patriot Mobile, you are signing up with a company that puts your values at the forefront of what they do. You make choices when you pick vendors in your life. This is an activist organization. They defend your freedoms. They are Christian conservatives. They are called Patriot Mobile. They invest in causes that you would believe in. A lot of companies won't do that. They'll take your money and put it in stuff you don't agree with. That's not Patriot Mobile. They are unabashed in their values. Take a .com/Scott or call them up, 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Scott, and they'll give you a free month. PatriotMobile.com/Scott or call them 972-PATRIOT. Make the switch today. I'm doing it, and I think you should too. When we come back, more from the RNC Winter Meeting. It's Scott Jennings on the road in California. Stay with us. Okay, it's Wednesday, January 21st. We're broadcasting live from Santa Barbara, California. We're at the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee, and we're talking to a number of Republican officials from around the country today, checking in on different political situations in a lot of different states. That tour of our country now takes us to New York. Joining us in the chair next to me is Joe Cairo. He is the New York National Committee man, and he is also the county chairman of Nassau County in New York. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're here in California, but everywhere I go, no matter where I go, everybody wants to talk about Mamdani and what's going on in New York City. Obviously, he ran as a socialist, promised a lot of things. I was told by a lot of Democrats, oh, don't worry, he's going to moderate himself. But his early days as mayor of New York City have proven it out. This man intends to be a true, well, charitably socialist, not charitably communist mayor of New York City. What are your early reviews of Mamdani?
He's doing exactly what he said he would do. He's not changing. He is a socialist. The Democrats, socialists, the progressives have taken over the city. We're on Long Island, immediately adjacent to the city. We're worried. Mamdani had a great effect on our election this past November. When Republicans didn't fare well throughout the country, we did exceptionally well in Nassau County. We not only held on to all of our elected officials, all our incumbents, but in the city of Long Beach, where Jimmy Moriarty does a great job as our leader, we swept it, and it's 3-1 Democrat to Republican by enrollment. We swept the entire city council. People in Nassau County, I live in North Valley Stream, within 2 miles of the Queens line. We're worried. We're worried. People who live in the 5 towns, Republican stronghold, heavy Orthodox Jewish population, they're scared because Far Rockaway is adjacent to the 5 towns. We can't allow him to come over into Long Island, into Nassau and Suffolk counties. We bucked the trend in 25. We're going to continue to do it. Throughout the state, they're not as aware of his policies as we are on Long Island because we're right there. But affordability, he's not going to do anything to help the average taxpayer. As a matter of fact, his tenant advocate, who he just appointed, said that owning a home is an indication of white supremacy.
Oh, yeah.
People shouldn't own houses. I mean, the world's upside down. New York City's crazy. It's upside down, and we cannot this year allow it to spread throughout Long Island or the rest of New York.
Well, it's interesting to hear the report from Nassau County. You say there's a backlash to Mamdani there. As you talk to Republicans from around the country, is it your advice to them that they inject Mamdani-ism into their races everywhere? Because it seems to me Mamdani's not isolated. You're seeing this energy in the Democratic Party all over the country. Is this something Republicans should use in November to say, hey, if you want Mamdani in Maine, if you want Mamdani in Florida, if you want Mamdani in Missouri, don't turn out? I mean, is it a turnout booster for the Republican Party?
You're absolutely right. He's not just located in New York City and there's boundaries there. He wants to be widespread. Now it's New York. Next it'll be the country. Look what we've got in New York. AOC, Democrats tell me that Schumer won't run again next time because AOC and the progressives are taking over the party. Tom DiNapoli, New York State Comptroller, very friendly with me, Nassau County guy, a Democrat. I know him for 40 years, real nice guy. Does a good job. You know what? You know where Tom DiNapoli's at? He's facing 3 primary opponents, one of whom has a lot of money and is progressive. He probably won't survive it. So New York we're the center of it now. It's going to spread. And you're absolutely right. Throughout the country, this isn't something they want to keep localized in New York or in the state of New York. They want to spread it throughout the country. They want to take over the country. And thank God Donald Trump is the president. Because if he weren't, we'd be in real deep trouble.
Let's dip into the governor's race in New York. A lot of people wonder if Governor Kathy Hochul is actually vulnerable. Elise Stefanik has taken a step away from politics. This leaves Bruce Blakeman as the Republican running against Hochul. What do you foresee for the governor's race in New York in 26?
I think Bruce Blakeman can win. Hochul is unpopular. John McLaughlin, our pollster, did a poll last October. She was at 65% unfavorable. Very unfavorable. That's in Nassau County. I think she just came out with her budget. All her budget does is give more money to the illegal migrants who have come into the country. It does nothing for the taxpayers. Nothing with real property taxes, nothing with income tax to help the middle class people. I'll tell you about Bruce Blakeman. In Nassau County, we have more than 100,000 Democrats than Republicans. Democrats outnumber us in enrollment by more than 100, maybe 110,000. Bruce Blakeman won. He won by 36,000 votes. He won by 11, almost 12% of the vote. You know why he did it? Because Democrats, average normal Democrats say, a party anymore. We didn't leave our party. Our party left us. And independents, Overwhelmingly, 60% of independent men and 57% of independent women voted for Bruce Blakeman.
That voice is Joe Cairo, New York National Committee man and the Nassau County, New York GOP chairman. When we come back, exclusive interview. It is Wednesday, January 21st. The world travels of Scott Jennings continue, and we are in Santa Barbara, California today, broadcasting live from the winter meeting of the Republican National Committee. We've been taking a tour of the various states and talking to folks who are in battleground states or places where politics is quite interesting this year. We're grateful for the RNC for hosting us and helping us arrange some of these interesting conversations. I want to talk a little bit about Minnesota. So Minnesota has become an interesting state for a number of reasons. One is they have this massive fraud scandal that has exploded on the watch of Governor Tim Walz and forced him to abandon his own reelection campaign. The other, of course, is the immigration situation going on in Minnesota. We have ICE on the ground being treated like foreign invaders by Walz and honorary Somali pirate Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, telling people, we got to go fight ICE in the streets. And, well, guess what? That's what people are doing. We have people barging into churches in Minnesota. That's what happened on Sunday morning because Walz's warriors, who'd been told to pretend they were fighting at Gettysburg, went into a church to terrorize Christians at a Baptist church on a Sunday morning. It is quite a situation in Minnesota. It has gotten so weird in Minnesota, and specifically in Minneapolis. It's just so strange. The politics has gotten so strange. There's word that Attorney General Pam Bondi is in Minnesota right now, and that a grand jury is looking at some different issues. One of those issues is, did these people who barged into the church on Sunday, did they break the law? A lot of people think they did. A lot of people. My view is this. If the people who barged into that church on Sunday are not indicted for violating the FACE Act or the KKK Act or whatever they decide is most relevant, you are going to see radical leftists all over this country barging into churches all over the country because they're going to feel emboldened and protected to do so. It is an obvious. You talk to even Democrat lawyers. I was on with one on CNN the other night. She's a total lefty, Stacey Schneider. And she was like, yep, they're in trouble. You cannot do this. You cannot allow this. There have to be consequences. But the grand jury may also be, and the subpoenas, I guess, have been delivered to Governor Walz and Mayor Fry and some other Democrats. They want to know, do you have Democrats in Minnesota subverting federal law enforcement, using their office to subvert the execution of federal law? By the way, these are not new laws. These laws have been on the books for years. So, again, Minnesota's become an interesting, strange, bizarre place, and Republicans are going to try to do something about it. There is a Senate race emerging there because Tina Smith is retiring. It's an open race, and the Republican Party may have found an answer to turning Minnesota red. Let's play cut one. This video this morning from Michele Tafoya, a new entrant into the race.
For too long, hardworking people have been ripped off by criminals, corporations, and career politicians. And the people doing everything right are the ones paying the biggest price. Well, I'm not going to stay on the sidelines any longer. Starting today, I'm running for the United States Senate. As Minnesota Senator, I will clean up the system, fighting.
That voice you're hearing there, legendary sports reporter, four-time Emmy award-winning NFL sideline reporter, and now candidate for the United States Senate, Michele Tafoya, and she joins us live here on the Scott Jennings Show. Michele, welcome into the conversation.
Oh, it's good to talk to you, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. I'm in California out here at the meeting of the Republican National Committee, broadcasting live, and there's a lot of talk about your candidacy. People in Minnesota have been trying to get you to run for office for years, and you have finally decided to do it. There's a lot of excitement around it. Just tell us, what pushed you over the edge? Why are you now putting your name on a ballot, throwing your hat into the ring?
Well, we've seen a major crisis of leadership here in Minnesota. We have discovered, maybe too late, maybe not, that the career politicians are not coming to save us. And so some people have to step in and clean up this mess. Look, I've lived in Minnesota for over 30 years. And yes, people have tried to recruit me for a long time. But we have gotten to a boiling point here, and the tea kettle is whistling, and we need to do something. I've talked to a lot of people who just say, oh my gosh, we cannot continue to roll over and continue to elect these political elites who keep doing the same thing. It doesn't matter what the name is, if it's male or female, whoever it is, they keep doing the same thing. So, I've talked to a lot of people, talked to my family, and just decided if we want to do something about this, I've got to step up.
So there's a couple of crazy things going on in Minnesota. The fraud scandal, which was blowing up and caused Tim Walz to not run for re-election, that was kind of overshadowed by the immigration situation going on in Minneapolis. When you see what Democrats in Minneapolis are doing, essentially saying, we're not going to allow the enforcement of federal immigration laws here, is that one of the motivating things that got you into the Senate race?
It is. Look, we have a law enforcement crisis as well. I mean, this was the place of defund the police back in 2020, you recall. That didn't work out well. This isn't working out well. Look, I've talked to people in law enforcement, and they have said, we put life and limb on the line in order to arrest these criminals, and then they get turned back out on the street only to have other officers have to come in and put life and limb on the line to arrest these criminals. It makes no sense. There's no cooperation because Tim Walz and Jacob Fry and the Mayor Herr in St. Paul, they do not want their police officers to cooperate. This is a recipe for disaster that's been fanned and inflamed by the rhetoric of Jacob Fry and Tim Walz, the rhetoric of resistance, the rhetoric of get the F out, all of it. They have just fanned the flames. They've called it racist and fascist to enforce the law. So of course we've got what you're seeing here. And it's a disaster, and that is a big part of why I'm running.
Republicans have not been successful in quite some time in statewide races in Minnesota, but with this immigration issue and the fraud scandal going on, is this the moment where the Republican Party can find itself with a little momentum in Minnesota? I mean, I'm sure you talk to a lot of voters out there. Do you feel like the electorate in Minnesota is looking at all this and saying, enough is enough? We're going to have to change direction here. We put our trust in the wrong party and the wrong people.
Absolutely. I'm hearing that from all kinds of people on both sides of the aisle and our independents here. They like I said, this is a tipping point. They're seeing it all. They're seeing the crisis. They're feeling it. They are angry about the fraud. And by the way, these police officers that I spoke with, Scott, they said, I hope we don't take our eye off the ball when it comes to this fraud. Because all of that fraud, the billions and billions of dollars that were bilked from Minnesota taxpayers, affect all of our budgeting for law enforcement and all of the other programs in Minnesota that matter to people. So I think there is probably a good reason why Tim Walz is trying to draw more and more attention to ICE and less attention to the fraud. But yes, people are fed up. I'm hearing it from independents, Democrats. We're certainly going to have to work hard for every single vote. So I'm encouraging people, if I can do the shameless plug, to go to MichelleTafoya.com. Chip in where you can. We'll take any size donation. We're going to need all the help we can get in this state.
So I'm looking at the Democrats that are running here. One of them is Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. She has been, I think, one of the most inflammatory people on this immigration issue. There's another one, Congresswoman Angie Craig. Do you see Flanagan and Craig as just more of the extreme radical left that Minnesota has right now? And is that how you would position the fall campaign? Basically, if you want more of the same, go for Flanagan or Craig. Is that how it's sort of shaping up in your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, look, Flanagan fraud is what a lot of people are calling it now, because Peggy Flanagan was attached at the hip to Tim Walz throughout his tenure. So she is attached to this fraud as well. And then you've got Angie Craig, who was in Washington and supposed to be keeping her eye on things and just let the ball drop. So neither one of them can escape some sort of responsibility for the fraud. And now they're just trying to out-left each other in their battle for the Democrat nomination. And they can go ahead and do that. I'm going to win my side. I'm going to win the Republican nomination, and then we'll see who's left between the two of them. And I'm just going to kind of sit here and watch it. But yes, they are both really tacking to the left because that's where the base is.
Let's listen to a comment, Michele, from Donald Trump. He said this morning, I believe, in Davos. Let's play cut 8 and get Michele Tafoya's reaction. Here's the president.
The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures which have failed to ever build a successful society of their own.
That was the president today. Do you agree with him? Is Minnesota sort of an example of what happens when you bring in unfettered immigration of people who refuse to assimilate into our culture here?
Well, we certainly saw that in the first fraud case, the Feeding Our Future, which was $250 million worth of fraud. The vast majority of the people who have been arrested and charged and tried and jailed are from the Somali community. I don't want to paint Somalis with a broad brush, but that's in the paperwork, Scott. So that is there. And I think we're seeing this worldwide, right? We're seeing it in France. We're seeing it in England. So I think there's a lot of truth to what the president said there. Look, my dad's parents were immigrants, legal immigrants to this country. Immigrants bring so much good to this country. But I don't understand why we can't have legal immigration and expect people to share our values. They can pray the way they want, all of those things, but share our values. American values are unique, and that's what makes this country work. And really, they're common sense values. And so I would love to get back to that common sense that built this country and away from the corruption and the craziness that is really, I think, tearing us apart. And I think Minnesota is Exhibit A.
That voice you're hearing, Michele Tafoya, legendary sports reporter and now Republican candidate for the United States Senate in Minnesota. Michele, tell us again, if people want to help you, where do they find you?
And please do. We're going to need all the help we can get here in Minnesota. MicheleTafoya.com, MicheleTafoya.com. You can go donate, volunteer. Look, Donald Trump had more Republican votes than any presidential candidate in history in the last election. If all those people turn out in November, here in the midterms, we can turn this state around.
That's Michele Tafoya, the latest candidate to jump in Minnesota. Folks are excited. They think maybe Minnesota's going to turn red because of all the problems up there. We'll see what happens. More to come after this. We're going to take a break and finish up the show here in Santa Barbara. It's Scott Jennings, Common Sense for the American People. Stay with us. We're glad you're with us here. And Scott Jennings is on the road in Santa Barbara, California. We're going to have a wrap-up conversation with my friend, the chairman of the party in West Virginia, Republican Josh Holstein, is here. First, a quick word from our friends at Relief Factor. A little news from Relief Factor. Here's what I'm going to do. I think the best thing to do to talk to you about Relief Factor is just to introduce you to some of the customers because they know it works. It is a drug-free supplement. It has helped thousands of people. It has relieved their everyday pain. Let's listen to Brian from Alabama. Here he is in his own words. Okay, we don't have Brian from Alabama, but I can tell you what he said. He said that he had aches and pains every day. He said it was impacting his life. He said it was impacting his ability to work. And he decided to try Relief Factor. So he does it, and all of a sudden, things get better. This doesn't mask the pain. It is a drug-free supplement. It helps alleviate the pain, alleviate the inflammation that causes the pain. You can do what Brian did, what thousands of people have done. Launch your own 3-week quick start. See what Relief Factor can do for you. Call 1-800-4RELIEF or go to relieffactor.com. Ask yourself, how would it feel to be out of pain? You may answer that question with Relief Factor. It's Common Sense for the American People. Scott Jennings is here on Salem. Here with me now, Josh Holstein, the West Virginia Republican Party chairman. Josh, you are an interesting guy. Not only are you the youngest state party chairman in the country, they think maybe you're the youngest state party chairman ever. How old were you when you got elected chairman of the West Virginia party? You were, sorry, I had you turned down there.
No
yeah, you're
23 years old, yes.
23
I'm 24 now, but I was 23 when I got elected.
So people think of, like, political conventions as being inhabited by, charitably older people. How did you convince all these people to make a 23-year-old the chairman of the party?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved with the state party in West Virginia for 6 years. Really, since I was a teenager, I started getting involved in campaigns and got to meet a lot of people on the committee and ran for the state legislature in 20, beat a Democrat incumbent, and I've been in the legislature since then as well. So, with a lot of communication with folks I've served with on the committee, we ran and we were successful in doing so.
Okay, here's the thing I want to know. You're the young state chairman out there. You're, the next generation of Republican leaders. Recruitment of young people into the party. It's been my contention that young people are waking up. They realize they've been sold a bill of goods.
Absolutely.
By the left. They don't have to hate their country. They can love their country. We live in a great country. Are you detecting that among people in your age cohort? Have they said, well, wait a minute, we're not buying in anymore to what the left is selling?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things are true. One, President Trump spoke a lot about, and all Republican candidates last cycle spoke about affordability, being able to own a home, be able to have a family and afford it. That's something that people in my generation do not have the opportunity to age and older, are still living with their parents, do not have a spouse, and can't have kids because they can't afford it, even if they wanted to. So I think the message that the president and Republicans up and down the ballot last cycle talked about, affordability, being able to own a home, I think that's very important, and that's the reason we saw an increase in youth support for the president and Republicans across the country. And secondly, I think there's been a backlash on liberal social issues. A lot of young people are just tired of constantly having to tiptoe around every single conversation that they have or every post they make on social media. They're done with that, and they don't want to be subject to it constantly. So I think those two things are what's really contributing to young people leaving the left and moving to the right.
Got about a minute to go here, Josh, from West Virginia. If you could give a piece of advice to any of your fellow Republicans who are out running campaigns this year in the big Senate races and the big targeted congressional races about how to attract the youth vote, how to get people excited, what would it be?
Yeah, you've got to talk about affordability, and you've got to talk about things that they care about. And again, that is their future and the future of their, not only themselves, but their potential family. And I think if you talk about that, you'll see great success.
All right, that voice you're hearing, Josh Holstein, the West Virginia Republican Party chairman, the youngest state chairman in the. So you're in the legislature.
Yes, sir.
And you also run the state party.
Yes, sir.
You're a busy man.
It's a little difficult, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, you really have jumped. You know what's amazing, though, is like a lot of people in your age, they just sort of, politics for them is a back burner issue. They don't think about a lot. Maybe they don't feel aligned with either party. But you decided to be a Republican and jump in and really participate. I mean, has it been rewarding for you? You getting everything out of your political engagement that you thought you would as a teenager?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in southern West Virginia, which was a Democrat stronghold for decades. And really I found a home very quickly in the Republican Party, and I've been happy to represent it and grow it ever since. So
yeah, in politics, it's a fun, it may seem a little messy sometimes, but necessary and can be fun.
Very much so.
All right, that's Josh Holstein. We're done in Santa Barbara. Common Sense for the American People is on the road tomorrow in Little Rock, Arkansas. Join us then. Scott Jennings is here. Thanks for listening on Salem.